let's talk about fatherhood. Oh, I'm so excited. My wife is expecting, and we're having a little girl in the month of March. And I have been just like researching and reading and going to every man that I respect in my life seeking advice on what it means to be a father. I am half anxiously, half enthusiastically just trying to prepare and gather all the insight I can. And that's a pretty normal response, right? Because maybe, you're expecting a child. Maybe you're watching this because you're trying to get some tips on fatherhood. And that's a normal thing that we just feel this like deep desire to want to get it right. And what I want to do is share my notes. What I want to do is share all the insight that I've gathered both through maybe my psychological training, because I've worked with dozens of parents and kids on things like, misbehavior and discipline models, building emotional warmth and closeness, attending to specific needs, whether that's like recovering from trauma or ADHD or autism. Like, I have a lot of that, but then I also have been seeking out a lot of insight from just wise men and then trying to synthesize and kind of put together maybe a philosophy of fatherhood. But here's something I want to say maybe on the front end that I think is a good piece of advice. I don't know if I have fully absorbed it yet, but I'm trying to, and that's a piece of advice I got from Daniel Churchwell, an old philosophy professor of mine. He was saying, fatherhood is the most normal thing in the world. Humans have been doing that since the beginning of it all. Yes, there's times to be intentional and to focus and to build skills and to think through it, but there's also a peace of mind that you can have that this is what it means to be human. This is the most normal thing. Being a dad, raising kids is normal. And you have far more skills buried in your DNA and in your intuitions than you think you do. And so as we're talking about this, as we're diving into all the skills and insights and things that we need to incorporate and change and plan through and strategize, keep in mind that this is meant to be kind of the icing on the cake. That you might be surprised to find that you're far more prepared for all this than you think you are, and you're going to leap into action. And yeah, of course, we're going to make mistakes, but that's okay. We're going to learn from them. So, all right, out of that spirit, let's talk a little bit about being a dad. I want to talk about a few things. I want to talk about building emotional warmth. I want to talk about like a basic discipline model that I've observed to be really helpful with a lot of different parents I've worked with. And then we'll talk about like the philosophy or the essence of fatherhood towards the end of the video, okay? So maybe the first place to start would be, when the child is first born, for those first couple years, we're not imparting all these like philosophical lessons. We're not teaching them how to play baseball or, introducing them to Star Wars or whatever. It's very biological. It's very much just creating a sense of secure attachment, and that child can feel that they can depend on us. We're attentive to them. And then just the biological needs of being fed and sleeping well and all those things. And so for me, in my context, my mentor gave me the advice. He's like, your first couple years are focused on supporting your wife, making sure that she feels attended to and cared for, and that she feels that you have, all the pieces that she's not focusing on, because she's focusing on this child, making sure that that child's being fed and sleep. Like, you're carrying the load of all the other things in the atmosphere so that she can just focus on the child. So your job is to make her feel supported. That's cooking meals. That's getting up in the middle of the night with her. That's, if you're taking turns on feeding or what have you. That's making sure that the bills are paid, doing the dishes, like cleaning the house. You're doing as much as you can to make her experience of being a mother and attending to this child as smooth and as pleasant as possible. And of course, that's going to be different for those of you watching who are maybe going to be single dads, or maybe you're going to be a stay-at-home dad and those roles are kind of reversed for you, or maybe you're in a same-sex relationship and so those gender roles aren't as distinct. But the idea would be, in whatever partnership you find yourself in, that there's a reciprocal, supportive, culture in that relationship, or if you're doing it on your own, that you're focusing on that secure attachment, the biological needs, making sure that child feels attended to. So it's not very philosophical in nature necessarily. You're not really disciplining a child in those, especially in that first year, to intensely in like a philosophical life lesson kind of way. You're building infrastructure for what it looks like to be on Earth, and that starts with here's how to sleep, here's how to eat. So that's your primary focus for those first few moments. As you move into toddler years, and of course there's elements of this that are interspersed even earlier, but you're moving more into structure of how to behave and interact with the world. And so what I want to do is first talk about emotional warmth, and then I'll talk about discipline and imparting lessons. Because the reality is, as a father, you're going to be imparting all sorts of lessons. to your child. You're going to be teaching them, and not just like how to change your oil and how to change a tire, like fun stuff. Like you're going to be playing baseball, and you're going to be, I don't know, showing them your favorite video game, or you're going to be doing creative projects. You're going to be teaching them how to play music, whatever. Like whatever you're interested in, you're going to be excited to share those things with your child. But it's important to keep in mind that it's not just your responsibility to welcome them into your world, but also to create a space where they can welcome you into theirs. Any warm, loving, trusting relationship is reciprocal, which means that it's not just about you welcoming them in, it's also you being welcomed into their world. And the way that a child welcomes an adult into their world is through play. That's how it happens. And so I want to teach you how to play. I'm going to give you just some basic philosophical and psychological instruction around play. So here's maybe the first step. What you want to do is you want to set out a bunch of toys in front of your toddler and then let them pick. And you're not even really asking them to pick. You're not giving them instructions about how to play a game. It's not parent-directed. It's child-directed. Okay? So maybe you set out a bunch of things and you're just observing. And so maybe here's your first skill. What you want to do a lot of is something called narrating, or I like to call it broadcasting, which means as a child does something, you're just calling it out and describing it out loud. And the reason you do that is because a child is still learning the social cues for being paid attention to. Like you and I as adults, like if I make eye contact with you, if I nod my head, if I say, oh, yeah, oh, okay, yeah, okay. Like you know that I'm paying attention to you, but a child's still learning all that. A child doesn't know when you're paying attention to them and not, and so you need to make that obviously clear. And a way that we do that is through broadcasting or saying out loud what we see them doing, and that gives them the cue that you're listening, that you're paying attention. And it's imperative. It's been shown in the psychological data that this actually lowers child's heart rates. It can actually like calm their nervous system. It has all these health benefits because the child feels, oh, this adult is paying attention to me. And quick note, I forgot to say this earlier. This is all based in something called parent-child interaction therapy. So I'm going to give you a couple little snippets of it. This isn't a comprehensive explanation of parent-child interaction therapy, but if there's pieces in here that you find really helpful, you can research that later. You can Google it. There's tons of free handouts. There's YouTube videos on instructions. So I'm going to give you just like a couple pieces of it that I think could be helpful. But if you want to go deeper into this content, make sure to Google PCIT or parent-child interaction therapy. Okay, so you're broadcasting. You are narrating what you see. So maybe you have some books, you have some art supplies, you have some Play-Doh out, and you're just saying, oh, okay, we're playing together. And your phone is off in the other room, right? Playing together. I'm so excited to play with you. All right, we have a lot of different options here. I see Play-Doh, I see books. Oh, you grabbed the Play-Doh. You want to play Play-Doh today? All right, well, you're picking out different colors. Oh, you picked out blue. Oh, you're taking the blue out of the container. You're putting it on the table. Okay. Oh, we're rolling it out into a snake. So you're literally broadcasting as if you were given like a radio play-by-play of what's happening. And that gives your child the reassurance that you see them, that you're paying attention to them, and that they have your full attention. And that has biological imprints on who they are. It's important. Second thing you're going to do, you're going to praise. You're going to give them compliments. You're going to tell them what you like about what they're doing. And you're going to try to attach it to their character. And here's the reason for that. The fundamental foundation of that child's self-esteem and their own sense of their own self-efficacy in the world is their parents' confidence in them, is receiving from their parents the feedback, you're doing this right. And that helps them orient themselves in the world. Here's true north, so what they're doing when you give them a compliment, when you give them praise, is they're calibrating their compass for how they're going to navigate their entire lives on this is appropriate behavior. This is positive, efficacious behavior. And so what you're doing when you give them praise is you're giving them lots of data about here's how to do things right. Okay, so it's not just blowing smoke, up their butt. It's not just being all goopy and overly oh, here's a trophy for doing nothing. I hear a lot of feedback from dads when I pitch this idea, like, oh, I don't want them to be like overly, padded and just live in this like everyone gets a trophy kind of world. That's not what this is. Okay, like I get that and I get that rebuttal. I'm all about Jonathan Haidt's research on that. I don't think everyone should get a trophy. This is different. Okay, this is a father giving data to their child about how to interact in the world properly. You don't need to lie to them. You need to tell them, though, when they're doing something correctly. And so some examples of that, let's say that you guys are playing Play-Doh. You're just talking about like, oh, wow, you picked blue. I love that color. You have pretty good taste in colors. Oh, you're rolling out a snake. You're doing that really evenly. I can see that you're concentrating. And wow, you made a pretty good snake there. that's pretty good. Like you really made that even, and oh, you're putting it together. You're putting eyes on the snake. You're really creative. I can tell when you concentrate, you can make some really beautiful stuff. You can make some really great things. Oh, you're pouring me tea. That's really thoughtful of you. Okay, so you're giving compliments. You're giving praise along the way, so the child feels like, oh, okay. Not only is he paying attention to me, he likes me, and that's super important. And you're trying to be creative. You're trying to find all these things that you can attach specifically to their character. So stay away from like just good job. Say what they're doing a good job at. Don't just say, oh, I like that. Say, what do you like about it? It's that's creative. That's, oh, I can tell like when you really put your mind to something, you really make something good. What you're trying to do is give them signals for what about what they're doing is working, because you'll notice they'll do more of that. So you can even, kind of incorporate different lessons in those moments too. Don't do that too much, because again, this is you being welcomed in their world. But you can say things like, "Wow, you're playing so quietly. You're playing with those toys so gently. I love that. Like, I love that you're spending time with me. I'm really enjoying spending this time with you." So those are some thoughts on praise. Praise broadcasting. What you want to stay away from: criticism. Don't criticize them stuff. Don't say that they're making it wrong. Don't try to show them how to do it better. That's not the time for that. Like, there's times to do that, but you just want to play soccer in the backyard. You don't want to teach them how to do the perfect kick or how to, do all these different things. There's times for imparting lessons, but when you're in a child-directed play, it's all about them. So it's not about imparting lessons. It's not about doing it right. It's all about the child doing it and welcoming you in, and then you giving praise for what's working, right? So, don't criticize. Don't use sarcasm. Kids don't know what sarcasm is. Such a complex social exchange. Don't do it, because the kid doesn't know what's going on. They just receive it as criticism. Also, maybe stay away from questions. And this is a little odd. This is a little counterintuitive. But it's been shown in psychological research that kids, when they hear a question from an adult, they're not thinking, what's my opinion on this? They're thinking, what does the adult want to hear? So that's important to notice. You don't want them stressing and being worried about what you want from them or what the right answer is. You want them thinking about what they want to do. And the best way to do that is to narrate and to broadcast and to praise. So instead of, oh, what do you want to play today? Do you want to play Play-Doh, or do you want blue? Do you want red? Just say, oh, you're thinking about different colors. Oh, look, you picked red. Like, oh, you're thinking about which one to do. You're concentrating really hard. Oh, you don't know what book you want to read. You're thinking through the options. Oh, I see that there's Dr. Seuss. I see that there's the little caterpillar. Yeah, a lot of options. I can tell that you're thinking really hard. I'm excited to see which one you pick. So you can just narrate without asking a question. And kids are getting asked questions all day. Did you tie your shoes? Are you hungry? Did you eat your carrots? Like, give them a break. Don't let them stress out during play. Give them a small space where they don't have to be berated with questions. So stay away from questions. Stay away from criticism. Use narrating or broadcasting. Use praise. Those are going to be things that really build the emotional warmth. And play often. Play at least 5 minutes a day, at least, if not more. Directed, focused play with the kid. Let's talk about discipline a little bit. Here's the discipline model that I use. There's going to be, as I'm describing this, you're going to be able to think of situations that doesn't work perfectly, but it's beyond the scope of this video to do like a comprehensive discipline model, but I've seen this work really, really well. So let's say that your daughter is at the dinner table and she doesn't want to eat her green beans, and you tell her, okay, I want you to eat 2 more bites of green beans. I want you to eat 2 more bites of green beans. And she's like, no. Here's what you do. You take her, you say, because you did not eat your green beans, we're going to go to timeout. And then you set her in timeout. Maybe there's like a stool or a step or something that you set her on for 3 minutes. Don't do longer than that, because that kid hasn't been on the planet for very long. So like a 30-minute timeout, that's like a huge percentage of her life. So don't do it forever. Do 3 minutes, and then at the end of that 3 minutes, say, okay, are you ready to eat your green beans? And then she could be like, no, I don't want to eat my green beans. Like, okay, another 3 minutes. And so you wait another 3 minutes. And even if she's like, okay, eat my green beans, be like, no, we're going to wait the full 3 minutes, and then at the end, you can eat your green beans. And then at the end, you take her back over to the table, and then she eats her green beans. And that procedure is super, super important. And go ahead and spell it out. You can say it as you're doing it. Okay, because you didn't eat your green beans, we're going to go to timeout. Okay, we're done with timeout. Now we're going to go back and eat your green beans. And that reassociation with the activity that they were getting punished for is super, super important. Because they have to make right in the world what was out of place. Does that make sense? And what you don't want to do is then be like, okay, you didn't get dessert because you put up such a fuss about your green beans and everything. You're not getting dessert, or you don't get to watch your show. Once they pay their dues, once they go to timeout, all is right in the world. All is forgiven. And that is a predictable structure that the kid will learn and then kind of sink into, and you'll find that behavior compliance is really not as much of an issue when you have a highly warm relationship, like through the play, and then like a very, very predictable model. Because here's where people go wrong. People have discipline models that aren't tied to an outside ethic or an outside structure of what they're doing. It's tied to their mood. It's tied to how irritated are you making me? And then the punishment is in proportion to how frustrating or irritating they're being. And when you do that, it creates a highly complex social discipline structure that the kid is constantly trying to read your mood. And it's like, okay, well, when dad gets back from work, he's a little grumpy, so I'm going to wait a little bit to ask for this, or don't do this because he gets mad, and then I get punished for that, or he'll yell at me for this. It's like the kid is like trying to walk on eggshells and dance around your mood, and your mood is always fluctuating and changing, and it's really hard to predict. So don't stress your kid out that way. I mean, focus on a specific outside ethic. So there's an outside ethic of what is right and wrong, and then there's a predictable thing that happens if I disobey. And it happens every single time. And of course, there's going to be instances where you're tired and we mess this up, or there's just social situations where it doesn't work to put a kid in timeout. So the goal isn't like 100% compliance and perfection. It's just maybe more times than not, there's a predictable structure to the discipline. So let's say, I don't know, your kid's throwing a ball around in the house and hits the TV, and you say, hey, I want you to be careful. Don't hit the TV with the ball. And then they hit the TV again. What you're going to do is like, okay, because you hit the ball or hit the TV with the ball, we're going to go to timeout. 3 minutes. Okay, are you ready to go play with the ball in the living room and not hit the TV? And then they can say yes. And that's important. You hand them back the ball. You don't say, we're taking the ball away forever. We're taking the ball away for the rest of the day. It's because you want to teach the child how to correctly orient themselves around the ball and the TV. You want to teach them proper action with the ball. You're not trying to get retribution. You're not trying to get payback. You're trying to teach them a lesson. You're trying to enrich them and enrich their skill set. And so that's the point of a timeout. So that's helpful to know. A quick thought about how this works in public. A mentor friend of mine, Ben James, he has a bunch of kids, and he does a really cool lesson where he'll, like on a Saturday, like for an hour, he'll go to the grocery store, and he won't go with any intention of buying any groceries. He's just going there to practice going through the grocery store and teaching his children when they ask for something and they get a no, not to freak out. And so he'll purposefully take the cart and go through the candy aisle. And the kids will be like, can we get candy? Can we get candy? And he's like, no, we're not going to get candy today. And then if they throw a fit, he takes them out to the car, gives them a timeout, waits, and then puts them back in the cart, and then goes back through the candy aisle. And they just practice that over and over. And then he'll do the same thing with like going out to eat. They'll go at like 3 p.m. when it's not super busy. They'll just get waters. They're not waiting on food. They're just sitting there practicing, sitting at a table in public for 45 minutes without interrupting adult conversations or throwing a fit if they get kind of antsy or bored. And that's what he does. He just and then what the great part about that is they're not making a scene because there's not a lot of people there. And then they can take him out to the car, time out, bring him back, place them back in the little kid's seat or whatever, and then continue on with their conversation. And because he practices that on the weekends when there's not like a lot of action, then when they are actually out to eat, at dinner with a bunch of people or with friends, or when they're at the grocery store and they're running late, that behavior, that structure is already kind of set in place. And that's pretty cool. That's pretty helpful. So there's obviously a lot more contingencies of how that works. And that's not like, I worry that some people listening to this feel like that's a really high standard, and then immediately they kind of rush to a sense of shame if they don't execute that perfectly. And I think that goes to say kind of like what I was talking about at the beginning, that we have a desire to get it right so bad. And so when I talk about like this really structured discipline model, and then we're looking at our own parenting, we're like, gosh, I don't do that a lot. Like sometimes I'm just tired. Sometimes I don't have sleep. Sometimes we're in a rush, and I don't have time to sit down and do a 3-minute timeout for every tiny little thing. And I want to reassure you, like, that's so normal. That's so totally acceptable. Like, the goal isn't to do this perfectly. The goal is to incorporate it into your routine to the point where it's useful. And if there's pieces of that I just described that you think might be useful, incorporate them to the point where you find them helpful. Don't feel like that's a standard for a good parent or a bad parent. I don't want you to walk away feeling that. So that's discipline. Those are a couple thoughts around discipline. Again, you can research PCIT, research parent-child interaction therapy for more detailed explanations on that system. Fatherhood. Here's the number one piece of advice I've gotten around maybe the ethic or the the philosophical entity of fatherhood from my mentors, from professors, psychologists, philosophers, the men that I love and respect. Embody the lessons you want your child to learn. Embody the morals that you want your child to embody. Do it in yourself. Focus on your own character. Because the whole do as I say, not as I do thing doesn't work. If you want your child to be hardworking, embody work ethic. If you want your child to be honest, embody honesty. If you want your child to be healthy, embody what it looks like to take care of your own needs and to rest well. You know, for me, the values that I want to embody is someone who rests well and takes care of their own needs, and then also is really hardworking and interacts with the world and is a good steward of the things in front of him. Like, both of those have to go in tandem, work ethic and rest. And that's a balance, that's a rhythm that I want my kids to know how to do, because there's been so many times in my life where I felt like I've gotten to a place of burnout, or I had like a really cool opportunity, but I was just so like unrested and not in a good brain space where I didn't maybe utilize that opportunity as well as I could have. There's so much suffering that's come from me not learning how to rest well, and because of that, feeling like I'm putting out subpar work. And so that balance is something that I focused a lot in my own character on developing, and I'm still working on, and something I want my kids to embody. I want my kids to be honest. I want to be honest. I want to feel like my children can depend on me, and when I say that I'm going to do something, I'm going to do it. I want my children to be creative and feel like they can have fun and be impulsive and goofy, but also be mindful of how their actions are affecting other people. Be mindful of their responsibilities and the people depending on them. I want my kids to love Jesus and to embody what it looks like to be prayerful and faithfully walk and bring about the kingdom of God. And I know that means I have to embody that, and this is super important too. I want my children to know how to interact with their own failure, and when they miss the mark and when they don't hit their own standards, what does it look like to interact with your own failure? Like, are you humble? Are you compassionate towards yourself, or do you berate yourself? Do you admit to your faults? Are you quick to forgive other people when they let you down? Are you loving and kind towards other people, even when they're not, doing what you expect? Those are all things that I've been really mindful of. I've been thinking a lot about. So what are your values? What are the things that you want to see in your children, and do you see those in yourself? And what structures do you have in place to build those things up in you? What habits are you incorporating in your life? What relationships are you around people that are like that? So that it'll rub off on you. Or like, what are the moral and value-driven lessons that you want to embody? Lots to be said there. Lots more to say. I know that I'm going to be looking back on this video and maybe even just in a few years, and I'll have lots more thoughts. So maybe I'll do a response to this one day. If you're a father, or if you're soon to be a father and you're watching this, I wish you the best. And please, if you have mentors that have been encouraging you and giving you advice, put those in the comments. I'd love to learn from you. I'd love to learn just the insights that you found to be helpful and that you're thinking about as you're preparing for all this as well. So I'll be talking to you in the comments. I'll see you next time.